Thank you very much, and for inviting me again this year to the NOAH conference. I have directly two questions in the beginning. Who saw Bigpoint last year, or who knows something about Bigpoint? Can you raise up your hands? Okay, quite a lot. What's quite interesting, the business changed. The company changed, a lot of new innovations. So I'm not going to repeat myself, and I'm not going to tell you the same. There are really some fantastic news that I want to share with you. Another question I have, who was attending the keynote session from Klaas Kersting from Gameforge about the gaming industry in the morning? Okay, perfect. What I'm going to show you right now is how we learned from Klaas there are some major trends right now in the gaming industry, and I'm going to show you how Bigpoint is putting these trends into life, into reality. So just very short about the company was founded in 2002, right now more than 600 employees. We operate more than 60 games actively in our portfolio in more than 25 languages. We have actually right now more than 160 million users even, and we are growing with roughly around 250,000 registrations per day. When you have a look at the track record in terms of awards, we've won plenty of awards over the time, and more awards as well from the commercial side and also from the gaming side. But what happened, especially when we have a look at 2009 to 2010, and the year is almost finished, so one big news, it's about the users. I remember very well last year, it was around Christmas, nice Christmas present for us, December 24th, we were hitting 100 million registered users. We couldn't double within a year, but we were growing by 60%. And when you consider that we needed roughly around 7 years to reach 100 million users, to come to 160 million within 1 year, I think is quite a good result. And especially we are quite proud about our concurrent active user number. So while speaking last year to you, we had about 250,000 concurrent users online in the second playing our games. Right now it's more than 1 million. So 4 times more active players playing our games. And especially coming right now to this chart. And as you probably remember, we heard in the morning something about the stereotype of the gamer. And I was showing you last year a video of kind of games that we produce, very male-driven, with guns, with cars, actions, and a lot of entertainment around this space. But if you have a look right now on the right side, you see Rama serious, casual. So that's right, it's in fact one trend that we occupied very successful during the last 12 months, and we could establish a totally new stream inside of the company, the casual games. Games that you probably know from companies like Playfish and Zynga and others, but we managed to build up something similar in terms of casual games, but outside of the Facebook world. So we are not depending on one player in the market. On the other hand, we are focusing more and more on AAA titles. So something similar that you saw last year, titles based on big Hollywood IP that you compare right now in a browser to real games that you know probably from an Xbox 360, a PlayStation 3, so the real console experience that we multiplay right now in a browser. And also you see on the end of this slide, mobile and social. So I said, we are going more and more towards social, but we are also going towards mobile. We started with a Farmer or with a Rama titles, but also we occupy the mobile space more and more with AAA and core games. And this is how we started in 2010 with different games. So we don't have sound, or do we have sound? Yes. much more games to come. Like Rama City, a game that plays in a city, Pony Rama, dealing more with ponies. So you see, it's a totally different target audience from what I was approaching last year to you. On the other hand, also this segment of core games of AAA titles is continuously growing inside of the company. But in the final end, our audience is not anymore the typical gamer, the gaming interested male person, 85% male, 16 to 35 years old. No, we also target right now with the other portfolio, the typical housewoman. But what we also did, we identified IPs as something really interesting, really appealing for the company to establish a brand, to give gamers already a storyline. Once you come to a game like Battlestar Galactica or The Mummy, you know what it's dealing about. You know it's a story about the mummies. You know it's about starships. You probably saw the series, and otherwise the name tells you already so much. So what we do, we continue working closer with Hollywood studios in developing games based on their IPs, and in the best case even launch it together. What we will do, for example, with The Mummy, when the movie comes, the new Mummy comes to the cinemas, we will have the game ready for it. And we heard about cross-platform multiplayer gaming, also a topic that's definitely in 2011 a year for us. As I said before, we are working on our key titles to bring them out on the iPad, on the iPhone, on the Android, on different kinds of smartphones, because it's becoming a more and more attractive market for us. But in terms of registrations, as I said before, we are growing currently with 250,000 new registrations per day. What does it mean in the final end? We had a look for it. It's more than babies are born a day. So obviously there's an end of this growth. Otherwise it cannot go like this. But on the other hand, it shows the dynamic in the market. It shows how far the gaming market is changing. It's opening to new audiences. And when you think about game mechanics in daily life, it's more and more taking part in our daily life. This is what we achieved in terms of registrations. We were hitting by the end of November 2010, the 160 million registered players. And you see the kind of hockey stick growth in terms of users. I was talking also about distribution partners, and there I'm quite proud because it was also my work in the beginning in the company that I was building up. So we are distributing our games next to our own channels right now with more than 1,000 different distribution partners, starting from TV stations to internet portals to social networks to ISPs to every possible point in the internet that you can imagine where you could place a game. On the other hand, it took us, as I said, a couple of years to build it up, because it's not so fast to go to certain countries, to talk to big media groups, to get the games integrated. Many people even don't know that they're playing a Bigpoint game, but they do. But in the final end, we profit from it. Also what we did, in 2011, our founder and my partner Heiko Huberts, he moved to the US. We understood that we need to be closer to the Silicon Valley, that we need to build up a strong US presence. We are going to hire an additional 100 people in 2011 right now in the US. We already produced the first game in the US, a game called Ruined Online, because we want to bring the talents that you have in this market, because many games coming out of the US are also successful in Europe. We want to hire these talents and create more and more content. And this strategy was already paying out in 2010. Therefore, we decided to open up Brazil as well as an important market for emerging countries. And probably some of you are interested in numbers, especially if you have your background in the financial industry. So I will give you some numbers that we found out that are quite interesting as well. Our users purchase every day more than 1 billion virtual items inside of the games. That's quite a big number, and we were really checking it a couple of times, but it is true. On the other hand, we found something really interesting about the industry, and we saw that this rule is not only applying for Bigpoint, it's applying for many online gaming companies. And we call this the Magic 10. But what means the Magic 10? It's especially when you think about the monetization, about the conversion rates of users. So what we saw that about 10% of our users are spending money inside of the game if they are active. And you can take the situation that you're staying somewhere in the rain, and you could pay right now 10 cents, and in this moment the bus would come immediately. And what we found out, that 10% of users, 10% of the people are spending money for some time advantages. And when we talk about virtual item sales, you can think about business school and how to find the right pricing point. And what we do in having this flexible model and monetizing our users is that we, on the one hand, can monetize really heavy spenders who have just everything in life and who say, okay, why not? I want to have the best account, the best car, the best equipment, because I have it in real life as well. On the other hand, we can also monetize the student who says, this month I only have €2, next month I don't have money, and probably in 3 months I will spend €5 or €6. With a fixed subscription price, we would lose all of them. But what we also found out, that the microtransaction market, in some studies, was worth more than $10 billion already. And coming to another example of the 10 and the 10% rule, what we found out about our users, and I think I'm talking more about the general gaming industry when it comes to the business model of item sales, that 10% of the users are generating roughly around 80% of the revenues. Another 15% generate 15% of the revenues, and 75% of the users only generate 5% of the revenues. So this is an advantage if you have such a flexible pricing model, because you can monetize all of them. And here you see in how far the revenue in item sales-driven companies is splitting up. So you really make the big amount of money with the high-valued items. And when you think about subscription, there's never a way to come to the upper end and to ask for a subscription price of $50, $75 a month, because nobody would spend the money. If you reach a critical mass in terms of users, if you have 1 million concurrent users and even more, you will find people who are willing to spend the money because they just want to be superior than everyone else around. And this is the last chart that we also found out about the Magic 10. So it's very easy to recognize this presentation and to keep it into memory. And it's the 10% of the conversion rate. What we found out, that 10% of the views are following up by registrations. From these registered users, about 10% become active. From the 10% active users, about 10% pay, and in the final end, you have about 10% of them being a heavy paying users and spending a lot of this money. So, and if you take the whole funnel, it makes sense that you can scale a company at this size by Bigpoint only if you reach a critical mass and if you come to numbers where you are in the millions of concurrent users. Otherwise, you will not have the economies of scale in the long tail. That's it. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer it in the break or later.